So why would I get excited about the shuffle when I didn't care for any of those other knives? A couple of things. 1, size. 2, price. 3, multifunction that actually works. Hello my friends, Late Boy Scout here. It is a beautiful day in the canyon where I've come to review the Kershaw shuffle for you. This is a nice multifunction knife from Kershaw that gets some of these multifunctions done better than, I don't know, the Kershaw Function knives, Funxion knives. Yeah, those were not big winners for me. I borrowed a couple of them and bought one, gave away the one that I bought. It just wasn't doing it for me. Okay, it did have some multifunction going on with it, but for the price and for the weight, I wasn't really in love with it. Didn't really care for it. It was spring assisted, and that was nice. It was a better looking knife, I'd say, but this has a lot of those same functions without the weight, without the size, without the price. What kind of price are we talking about on the shuffle here? We're talking about around $15. Around $15 for this tiny little knife. Now, we're going to compare this knife against a handful of others around the same size and varying price ranges to let you know kind of where it fits in for utility. But we're also going to have a little discussion about some of Kershaw's previous releases, some of their other Zytel and bead blasted Chinese-made knives that have not done it for me at all. There was kind of like this sea of Zytel and bead blasted Chinese-made knives from Kershaw released throughout 2011, 2012 that, I don't know, man, they just kind of bored me. Some of them were Zytel, some of them were G10, some of them were spring assisted, a lot of them were spring assisted. And they were all kind of in that $25 to $30 price range, just kind of varying shapes and sizes of the exact same knife, same materials. Didn't do it for me at all. And basically what we have here is the same materials, Zytel and HCR 13 MOV, Chinese made. That should be on the blade somewhere. I don't see it, but I believe this is Chinese made. So why would I get excited about the shuffle when I didn't care for any of those other knives? A couple of things. 1, size. 2, price. 3, multifunction that actually works. Let's get into that. Okay, so the price, 15 bucks, like I said. Size. Let's compare that to a few other knives, very much in the same size range. That is really getting washed out for color, isn't it? What compares to it? Okay, let's have a look. How about this? Here's the Spyderco Cat. Very, very comparable in size and utility. Okay, as far as how it fits in your hand. There's the Spyderco Ambitious, really close in size. Here's another popular one. A lot of you guys love this knife. I'm not a big fan of it, but I know some of you are. There's the Flash 1. How about the Kershaw Scallion? Giving you a sense of the size of that shuffle. So we're talking about what some might call a backup blade, or maybe you might call it a go-to blade, maybe the first one you go to when you have some utility work to do. Okay, maybe your larger blade stays in your pocket. There's the whatever you call that knife. I know what it's called, but anyway, that's the buck. Also a good knife in the same size range. Now, any of these knives are good knives, it's true. None of them come in at that same price range of $15. This one, again, basically the same steel. You've got HCR 13 MOV. Now, that's exactly what we have on this Kershaw. Okay, it's got the Zytel instead of that G10. I prefer G10 if I could have it, but Zytel I'll take for the price. And so we've talked about size. Again, I like that size for sort of a go-to utility blade. Keep that one in your pocket and get some utility work done with it without having to take out your larger one to possibly scare the sheeple. And that's a good thing, I think. But then the multifunction capabilities of this knife. Now, there is a cap lifter on here, which I have not tested in any way. I imagine it will do a great job. Either grabbing the cap and pulling it back like that, or bringing it forward like that and pulling it up. I think it'll do a good job either way. Let's compare that to a cap lifter on my Leatherman Style PS. Okay, that is also a cap lifter, and it kind of goes the other way, this way. That's the way it lifts your caps. So not as deep as the cap lifter on the Style, but it's much deeper than the one on the Squirt PS4. I can attest to that, which is another Leatherman that I don't have on me, but one that I own. I gotta say, I think that cap lifter is gonna do just fine, but let's move on to this area right here, which is actually both a lanyard hole and a screwdriver. And that screwdriver actually works extremely well, I have to tell you. Moving into a new home recently, I've had a lot of little DIY projects, a little, hey, go fix that real quick, and I don't want to run and go get the toolbox. I just want to use whatever's in my pocket. And sometimes the multi-tool comes out, and sometimes this has come out. And there have been a lot of little screwing jobs, little flathead screwing jobs that I've had to do with this. And it's actually been really comfortable in hand. You can get a good amount of torque on that. I mean, you can imagine so. Look how much of that fills your hand, and you can just use that entire thing to get torque into that screw while you're pushing down on it. The knife holds up well. You know, the frame of it holds up really well. It gets that job done pretty ergonomically. Yeah, great multifunction on this knife. Now, let's also talk about the pocket clip, which is a big, huge win. Deep carry, disappears in your pocket. Reversible, tip up only. For those of you who only like your knives to be tipped down, too bad. But lefties, righties, either way, you can have this thing how you want it. Deep carry for a $15 knife from Kershaw. Awesome, awesome. Let's talk about the texture on that Zytel. That's their new K texture, which actually feels pretty good, looks pretty cool. That's the K from the Kershaw logo. Again, pretty neat. There's that little Kershaw logo on the pocket clip, of course. Construction of it, it is a liner lock. Sometimes you can get that thing to flick out with the right sort of, I don't know, balance or whatever. You can get that thing to flick out. Mine took some breaking in order for that to work. Mostly I was just kind of rolling it out with the base of my thumb right there, kind of rolling it out into place. And the lockup is not real consistent, I have to say. Some of the time it got a little better. You can see that it's very early right there, so much so that I don't trust it. But if we give that a harder deployment and look at it again, you can see how it's come over. So it's not real consistent. So just kind of be aware of that, be careful about that. The fact that you can actually get your finger forward into this choil area kind of makes that a non-issue for me, because even if it were non-locking, I would still feel safe using this knife. Not for applying a lot of downward pressure or any kind of spine strikes, obviously, but just for standard use, for sure. Now I would prefer, there's one change I would make to that if I could have it. I would prefer, like the Spyderco Cat has, for that choil area to extend like this a little bit. That's what I would prefer to have, but you don't get that. You know, it gives me a little added comfort, and of course a little jimping would be nice too, but it gives me a little added comfort, feeling a little more safe with my knife, like I cannot get my finger up into that blade area. Whereas like this, yeah, you know, if you grab it wrong or if you use it incorrectly, a little too forcefully, sure, your finger could slip up there and possibly get cut. Even so, even without the jimping on it, it's a very useful knife. Locks into hand pretty well. Getting your thumb way up there, you can get some nice hard cutting done or some just light cutting done with this tiny little knife. Again, we got some, as far as blade shape is concerned, and sort of the girth of the blade, real similar to something like the Persistence or that Cat that I showed you a minute ago. Real similar in blade shape and size, at least in size, I should say. Something like the Flash 1 may be preferable for you if you like smaller, you know, less breadth to your blade. Okay, but you're going to pay quite a bit more for that Flash 1, maybe around twice the price. And honestly, the materials are pretty comparable. I think they are. This is a much simpler knife, but very comparable as far as materials are concerned. Kershaw Shuffle, I'm actually saying a lot about a very small little knife here because there's a lot to be said about it. I think Kershaw's got a huge winner here, and I hope they make it for a long time. Yeah, there are a few little changes you might want to make to it yourself, but otherwise, it's an awesome little multifunction knife. That's been my review of the Kershaw Shuffle. I'm the Late Boy Scout. Thanks for watching. See you later.